What if the future of education isn't being built in Silicon Valley or in the classrooms of Finland, but in the crowded, buzzing cities of China? It might sound unexpected. After all, for years, China's education system was known mostly for its rigid structure, high-pressure exams, and endless homework. A place where creativity was often sacrificed for test scores. But something big is changing. In a bold, sweeping move, China is now rewriting the playbook. It's not just tweaking a few rules, it's transforming the very purpose of education. We're seeing reforms that reduce homework, ban private tutoring, push science, innovation, and even artificial intelligence into everyday learning. Entire schools are being redesigned, textbooks rewritten, teachers retrained, and all of it is happening at a scale the world has never seen before. But why now? And why does it matter to the rest of us? Because what happens in China's classrooms won't stay in China. With over 240 million students, the ripple effects could stretch far beyond its borders, reshaping how education works in your country, and redefining what it means to be smart in the 21st century. So here's the real question. Can China's schools, once criticized for being too strict, now become the blueprint for the future of learning? And if they succeed, will the rest of the world be ready to follow? To understand China's bold educational transformation, we need to start with a simple but powerful goal. Become a strong education nation by 2035. That's not just a slogan, it's a national strategy. In early 2024, the Chinese government released its sweeping education modernization plan, laying out how it plans to reshape the learning experience for hundreds of millions of students over the next decade. But what does that actually look like? Let's start with something surprising: less pressure. For years, China's education system was infamous for its intense exam culture. Students studied late into the night. Parents spent small fortunes on private tutors. And the competition to enter top universities like Tsinghua or Peking was so fierce, it sparked mental health crises nationwide. In response, the government introduced the double reduction policy. Its goal: cut back on excessive homework, ban for-profit tutoring, and shift the focus from test scores to student well-being. This shocked many. Why would a country known for academic intensity suddenly pull the brakes? Because leaders realized something critical. Creativity, mental health, and innovation suffer when students are burned out. And if China wants to lead in technology, science, and the arts, it needs thinkers, not just test takers. So, schools began assigning less homework. After-school tutoring centers were shut down overnight. Parents were told to step back, and teachers were asked to teach whole child development, not just cram for exams. The result? Mixed reactions. Some parents, especially in big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, panicked. Without tutoring, would their kids fall behind? But others, especially in smaller towns, breathed a sigh of relief. Education was finally becoming more equal. And that's part of the bigger picture. China's reform plan isn't just about reducing pressure, it's also about spreading opportunity. The government has pledged to optimize the distribution of schools, especially in rural areas. That means better infrastructure, more qualified teachers, and updated curriculums, even in the most remote corners of the country. They're also pushing for free preschool for more families and expanding 9-year compulsory education. The idea is simple. No matter where a child is born, in a coastal tech hub or a farming village, they should have access to the same level of education. But this raises a critical question. Can such a massive system actually transform so quickly? With 240 million students and over 500,000 schools, the scale is hard to imagine. It's like trying to turn a supertanker around in the ocean. But China is betting that centralized planning, massive investment, and a sense of urgency will make it work. They're not just reforming education. They're rethinking what school should be in a country preparing to lead the future. If reducing pressure is one side of China's education reform, then technology is the other. And here's where things get even more ambitious. Across classrooms in China, chalkboards are being replaced by smart screens. Desks are equipped with tablets. Teachers have access to real-time data about how well each student is understanding a lesson as it's being taught. How? One word: AI. Artificial intelligence is no longer a futuristic dream in Chinese education. It's already here. In many schools, especially in major cities, AI systems are used to tailor learning for each student. If a child is struggling with fractions, the system automatically gives them more practice problems. If another student is speeding ahead in science, they're offered harder challenges to keep them engaged. It's personalized learning at national scale, and this isn't just happening in elite private schools. Thanks to government support and rapid tech development, AI tools are being rolled out to public schools too, especially in regions that previously lacked high-quality teaching. Then there's JueTangX, one of the largest online learning platforms in the world. Originally launched by Tsinghua University, it now offers thousands of courses, from quantum physics to poetry, all accessible to anyone with an internet connection. Students can watch lectures, take quizzes, and even earn degrees, without ever stepping foot on campus. During the COVID-19 pandemic, China's digital infrastructure proved vital. Millions of students seamlessly transitioned to online classes almost overnight. That moment became a wake-up call. Digital learning wasn't just a backup plan, it was the future. But here's the twist. While countries like the US and UK have also embraced EdTech, China is using it not just to teach better, but to govern better. AI doesn't just track student progress, it also monitors teacher performance. Schools use facial recognition to track attendance. Cameras equipped with emotion detection software can even analyze student engagement in real time. Sound intense? It is. Critics warn that this level of surveillance risks turning education into a high-tech panopticon. But supporters argue it's about efficiency. In a system this large, they say, data is the only way to ensure fairness, catch problems early, and drive performance. And here's the bigger question. What happens when an entire generation grows up learning alongside artificial intelligence? Will they become better problem solvers, faster learners, or will they rely too much on machines? Either way, China isn't waiting to find out. By merging education and technology at an unprecedented scale, it's not just preparing students for the digital age, it's creating a new kind of learning, where algorithms and ambition shape young minds together. China isn't just modernizing how students learn, it's transforming what they learn. In classrooms across the country, something new is happening. Coding is being taught in elementary school. Robotics labs are popping up in middle schools. And high school students are now being pushed not just to memorize facts, but to create solutions. Why? Because China has a clear mission: become the world's leading force in science and technology. It's no coincidence that the government is pumping billions into AI, quantum computing, biotechnology, and clean energy. But behind every national lab and research center, there's a classroom, a student, a future innovator. And so, the Ministry of Education has issued a mandate. Science education must start earlier, and it must go deeper. That means rewriting curriculums, training teachers, building partnerships between schools and research institutions. Some cities are even setting up innovation hubs inside public schools, mini labs where students can experiment with real-world tech under the guidance of engineers and scientists. It's a big shift from the past. Just 10 years ago, China's education system was all about rote memorization. Students could recite ancient poetry or solve complex equations, but struggle with open-ended thinking. That worked in an exam-driven system. But in a world powered by AI and global competition, memorization isn't enough. The country now wants inventors, researchers, and entrepreneurs. And universities are feeling the pressure too. Top institutions like Tsinghua, Fudan, and Zhejiang are expanding their programs in artificial intelligence, semiconductor design, and aerospace engineering. In early 2025, several of China's elite universities announced they would increase enrollment in strategic science fields by more than 30%. Here's the kicker. These changes aren't just about China's domestic future. They're part of a larger geopolitical strategy. If China can produce more top-tier scientists, more breakthrough patents, and more Nobel-level research, it doesn't just boost the economy. It shifts the balance of global power. This ambition has already produced results. Chinese researchers now publish more scientific papers than any other country. Their innovations in AI, facial recognition, and renewable energy are shaping global industries. But there's a deeper question brewing. Can a system that once punished creativity now become the world's engine for innovation? Some skeptics say no, that true creativity requires freedom, risk, and the ability to challenge authority, traits that haven't always been encouraged in Chinese classrooms. But others point out something different. Creativity isn't one size fits all. And China's approach, structured, disciplined, but increasingly open to experimentation, might just work its own way. Because when you combine a nation's scientific ambition with an education system of 240 million students, you don't just teach science, you engineer a future. For decades, vocational education in China was seen as second tier. If you couldn't make it into a top academic high school or university, you were sent down a different track, into technical schools, often stigmatized as a path for less capable students. It was the system's quiet message. Manual skills weren't as valuable as mental ones. But now, that entire mindset is being rewritten. China is placing a bold bet on vocational education and treating it not as a backup plan but as a foundation for national power. Here's why. The country is racing to modernize its manufacturing sector, build advanced industries, and compete globally in areas like green energy, robotics, and smart infrastructure. But there's a problem, a massive shortage of skilled workers. Despite the rise of automation, China still needs millions of technicians, electricians, coders, machinists, and digital designers who can build and maintain its vision for the future. Enter the new era of vocational education and training, VET. Over the past few years, China has poured billions into upgrading vocational schools. Classrooms now feature industry-grade machinery. Curriculums are co-designed with companies. In many programs, students split their time between school and real factories, gaining hands-on experience while still learning theory. It's not just about producing workers, it's about producing specialists. There's also been a cultural shift. Major media outlets now celebrate skilled labor. National competitions spotlight young welders, mechanics, and AI programmers. And companies like Huawei, BYD, and Haier are forming direct partnerships with technical colleges to create pipelines of talent. One example? In Guangdong Province, a vocational school partnered with an electric vehicle company to create a custom training track. Students learn battery engineering and EV maintenance directly from industry experts. Upon graduation, they're guaranteed a job with above-average wages. But here's the twist. This approach doesn't just benefit China. As more countries face shortages in skilled labor, especially in fields like renewable energy, digital tech, and advanced manufacturing, China may emerge as a global model for how to elevate vocational education. Still, challenges remain. Despite reforms, some parents still hesitate to send their children into vocational tracks. The old stigma hasn't fully disappeared, and many employers still prefer university graduates, even for hands-on roles. But the government is pushing hard to close this gap. In 2024, new policies were introduced that give vocational school graduates equal status when applying for certain civil service jobs. Some universities are even offering applied degrees that blend academic and technical training. Because here's the bigger idea. If you want to build a nation of innovation, you can't just have thinkers. You need builders. And by reinventing vocational education from the ground up, China is quietly equipping an entire generation with the skills to power its future. Not in theory, not in lectures, but in factories, labs, and control rooms, where the future is literally being made. In a country as vast and diverse as China, the biggest divide in education isn't about test scores, it's about location. For years, a child's future in China depended not on how smart they were, but on where they were born. If you grew up in Beijing or Shanghai, you had access to the best teachers, modern facilities, and elite universities. But if your home was a mountain village in rural Sichuan, the story was very different. Old textbooks, underpaid teachers, classrooms without heat. Some students walked hours just to reach school. But now, China is trying to change that, using something unexpected: technology. Over the past few years, the government has rolled out massive initiatives to bring ICT, information and communication technology, into rural schools. This includes smart blackboards, internet-connected tablets, and satellite links that allow students in remote villages to attend live-streamed classes taught by top teachers in big cities. In other words, a child in Gansu can now learn physics from a master teacher in Guangzhou. It's part of a broader mission to level the playing field. And it's working, slowly. Test scores in rural areas have begun to rise. More students from disadvantaged regions are gaining access to higher education, and young teachers are being incentivized to work in remote areas with better salaries and career support. But the biggest breakthrough may come from an unexpected place: the hukou system. For decades, this household registration system tied a student's rights, like access to school, to their parents' official hometown. That meant migrant workers who moved to cities couldn't enroll their children in urban public schools. Millions of kids were either left behind in rural villages or squeezed into overcrowded, underfunded migrant schools. Now, reforms to the hukou system are allowing more families to stay together, and for migrant children to access better education in the cities where their parents work. It's a quiet revolution, but a powerful one. Because when you give every child, no matter where they're born, a real shot at quality education, you don't just lift families out of poverty, you reshape a nation's future. Still, the gaps aren't fully closed. Rural students remain underrepresented in elite universities. Infrastructure varies, and not every village has fast internet. But for the first time, millions of students are no longer held back by their zip code, and that changes everything. China's education reforms are ambitious, sweeping, even visionary, but they're not without complications. For every school embracing AI and flexible learning, there's another struggling with outdated infrastructure or limited internet. And while policies like double reduction aim to relieve stress, they've also created confusion and some unintended consequences. Parents, for example, are caught in a paradox. They're told to stop private tutoring, but still worry their children will fall behind. So, what do? Many hire underground tutors, pay premium prices, and quietly continue what the system is trying to stop. Others resort to YouTube-style video courses, WeChat tutoring groups, or even AI-powered homework apps that solve problems instantly, with or without understanding. Then there's the pressure on teachers. With more responsibility placed on schools, teachers are expected to teach well, counsel students, coordinate with parents, and now manage technology platforms and national reforms. Burnout is rising, especially in rural areas where support is thinner. And the biggest concern? Creativity versus control. Can a system built on order and standardization really foster innovation? Critics argue that top-down reforms might improve performance, but limit freedom, the very thing creativity needs to thrive. China's balancing act is delicate. It wants to modernize, reduce inequality, and fuel innovation, all while preserving social harmony and state control. The question isn't whether the reforms are bold. It's whether the system can evolve fast enough and flexibly enough to truly meet the demands of the future. Because transforming education isn't just about changing what happens in the classroom. It's about changing how a nation thinks. So, can China's schools really change everything? After exploring its reforms, the answer becomes clearer. They already are. From reducing student pressure to unleashing AI in the classroom, from training scientists to empowering skilled workers, and from bridging rural-urban divides to rewriting outdated systems, China is not just tweaking its education model, it's reinventing it. And while the path is full of challenges, cultural resistance, implementation gaps, and ethical questions about surveillance and control, the direction is unmistakable. China isn't just preparing students to pass exams anymore. It's preparing them to shape industries, design new technologies, and compete on a global stage. But this story isn't just about China. In a world where education often struggles to keep pace with change, China is forcing a global rethink. What should schools look like in the 21st century? What do we value? Memorization or imagination? Uniformity or individuality? And maybe most importantly, if China gets this right, will the rest of the world be ready to learn from it? Because in this new education race, it's not just about who gets the best grades. It's about who defines the future.